الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Just like a human being has different physical illnesses, in the same way a person also has different spiritual illnesses and diseases, and one very crippling and destructive spiritual disease and illness is that of jealousy or envy, which in Arabic is called hasad. The reason is that a person, when they want to draw close to Allah Ta'ala, their sin is an impurity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pure, only pure can join with the pure. When a person removes this hasad, then only a person can come close to Allah. What exactly is hasad? These topics that we are doing, they're very distasteful, very badzog and badzaiga, because no one wants to speak about our illnesses, no one wants to speak about diseases. However, no matter how distasteful and disturbing these topics would be, they are very essential, very important for a person who wants to draw close to Allah. Because these are all impurities, whether it's anger or malice or hasad or envy or jealousy. And with these impurities, it's impossible for a person to connect to Allah Ta'ala, impossible for a person to have that akhlaq, that character which is acceptable by Allah. What exactly is hasad? The definition is very simple, that when some person gets some blessing from Allah Ta'ala and we feel upset. Someone gets a blessing and you get upset. Someone is praised in front of you, you get upset. This could be a religious blessing, this could be a dunyavi blessing, a dini blessing, anything. When that person gets, you feel upset. That's a sign that a person has hasad. And then there are different stages and different degrees. It starts with this, that you're upset, but it can go all the way, and a person might feel and wish that if I could do something to snatch away that blessing from that other person. So the snatching away, wanting and wishing that the blessing should be deprived, should be taken away from that person should be deprived of this, that is the eventual end of hasad. Hasad is a very big problem these days. It's a problem which is at an individual level, at a societal level, at an ummah level. We are people who are drowning, who are swamped in this illness of hasad. Any person gets a promotion, we feel hasad. And this applies in so many different aspects of our lives, whether it's a career, whether it's jobs, whether it's studies, someone gets admission into a good university, we feel it. We feel bad. And that feeling bad and that feeling upset about what other person gets from Allah, this feeling that you are upset and bad, this is called hasad. People have this hasad in terms of their relatives. Someone gets a good rishta, they get hasad, they envy. Someone envies their neighbors. Someone is jealous about their cousin. Someone is jealous about the grades that the other person is getting. Someone is jealous about the promotion that a person got at his job. Someone is jealous about the scholarship a person gets. This is something which is very, very widespread in our society. And this is a very big sin, gunai kabira, in the eyes of Sharia. And if you look at Quran, there is one principle that becomes very clear and very self-evident, that whoever has hasad inside of them, this jealousy or envy, then if you look through Quran, we will see that they are the ones who have always failed. They are the ones who have always been losers. They are the ones who have always had to face embarrassment and humiliation utter disgrace and destruction. In other words, if you look at the stories in Quran, stories which pertain to hasad, you will find two groups. One group is that individual or that group which engages in hasad, which envies other people. And there's another group about whom they are envied or they're the objects of hasad. People are doing hasad upon them. And you will notice this is a usul, this is a sequence in so many multiple stories without exception in Quran, that those group or that individual who does hasad, whoever does hasad, it leads to disgrace. Hasad leads to their downfall. Notwithstanding their ability, their intelligence, their qabiliyah, it always leads to a, it always leads to downfall. The first story that you have in Quran is that of Shaitan, who was a makhluk, who was a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a jinn of Allah ta'ala by the name of Azazil, who had a lot of ilmi qabiliyah, who had a lot of ibadah, qabiliyah in terms of deen, a lot of knowledge and a lot of action, a lot of ibadah. And he enjoyed a very high rank, so high that he was Ta'usul Malaika, likeness of an angel hanging around in the assembly of angels. He had done sajda on every single place on this earth. So he was like the top of the game. He was the masterful creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that time. And then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Sayyidina Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told all the angels to usjudu li Adam, to do sajda to Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam. Now all of a sudden, Sayyidina Adam alayhi salatu wasalam was given a fazilat. Allah ta'ala created him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blew his own spirit inside of him, specially created. And everyone is being told to do sajda to Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam. This is where shaitan, that jealousy, it becomes evident. He became jealous. He was blinded by that hasad. He became upset. Why did Allah Ta'ala create him? Became upset with why, Ya Allah, you honoring him? That why did you bless him? Why did you praise him? You made him Khalifatullah fil ard. And he wanted that fazilat for his own self. He wanted that nemat for his own self. This was hasad, that someone else got a nemat and blessing from Allah, and he felt bad and upset about that I deserved it. I wanted this. He started doing i'tiraz to Allah Ta'ala, objecting, and then giving dalail and proof to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm better, ana khairum minhu. But at the root of and then eventually he refused to do sajda. But at the root of that refusal to do sajda was this jealousy, was this envy that he had. That was the real cause, the real problem of shaitan that made Azazil into shaitan. And then still it wasn't just enough with this, that I'm upset that why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam and honor him? This hasad is such a deadly cancerous disease that it spreads. It has multiple levels, and he went at the nth degree, shaitan. He said that I'm not simply upset with him, but he had the ultimate degree of hasad, that I will do everything I can do in order to deprive Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam from this honor. I will lead him astray. And not just Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, I'm going to lead Bani Adam astray. So this is what happens when a person steps on this path of envy and jealousy. That he became a sworn enemy, die-hard enemy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sworn enemy of Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, and a sworn bitter enemy of Bani Adam. This is the result of envy. You can't stand the existence of that other person. You would be willing to do anything and everything to ensure that that person should not be on top of the ground, but rather below the ground. So this is what happened to shaitan. But then what was the result of this envy? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what was the consequence? Allah ta'ala mentioned that also in Quran. That he was rejected, repudiated, thrown away, banished from the kingdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the throne of Allah ta'ala. He had to listen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him in Quran, that creature who was the likeness of angels, so much ibadah and so much ilm, he was said that you are mardud, you are rajim. Inna alayka la'nati ila yawmiddin. That the la'nat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will shower upon you till Qiyamah. So this is what happened to Shaitan, from Azazil to Shaitan, pinnacle of honor, pinnacle of glory and success, and now the abyss of disgrace and ultimate humiliating failure. And this is the lesson that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us through this story. That envy, this is the consequence of envy. This is the eventual result of envy. Envy always leads towards this downfall, this utter embarrassment and this utter disgrace. Then, the next story, this was the sin that was committed on the Arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Second story is about Habil and Qabil, the two brothers who were the sons of Sayyidina Adam alayhi salatu wassalam. Qabil was the elder brother, Habil was the younger brother. Habil had a wife who was very pretty, beautiful, and Qabil wanted her for himself. So he had hasad in his heart. And again, same description, that a person gets some ni'mah, some blessing of Allah, and Qabil, he felt bad and upset. That why did he get this? Qabil found that to be upsetting for himself. And that's why he became envious, he became jealous towards his brother. And this hasad increased to such a degree that same thing, Allahu Akbar, he said that I'm going to kill you. And he said that to his brother. Literally, those words are mentioned in the Quran, that I'm going to kill you. But his brother Habil was a pious person. He just said that even if you raise your hands to try to kill me, I won't raise my hands. Why? Inni akhafullah. I fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rabbul Alameen. He is the Rabb of all the universe. So he didn't do anything. And Qabil just killed him. So this was the sin that happened on this earth. The first sin, and the cause behind this sin was also hasad, envy. And then in Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the third story, the story of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam and his 11 brothers. Ra'aytu ahada ashara kawkaba. 11 brothers of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam. Very able, very capable, very strong. They mention about themselves in Quran, Nahnu Usba, that they were so strong group, well knitted, a lot of Qabiliyah. However, they noticed that their father, Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salatu wassalam, he had a special attachment and fondness and love for the younger brother, Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam, because Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam was the sifat, was a person of sifat and good characteristics. So there's a natural fatherly love for him, and they noticed that. And because of that, they became envious. Again, the same description of hasad, that their father, they saw that their father is praising someone, and they wanted that praise. They could not stand that praise. They became upset over that praise. They became upset over that special favor, that special attachment that the father had for Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. They became hasad, became envious. They wanted to be the apple's eye of their father. And then the same planning, that it spreads. It doesn't just stay there. It doesn't just, you're not just simply upset with the other person, it spreads. And they said that we want this special favor for our own selves. What should we do? They did mashwara amongst themselves and said that they decided to kill Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. This is the eventual end of hasad, that let's plan to kill Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. And then one of them said that instead let's just throw him inside a well, empty well. He will no longer be here. We will be able to fulfill our purpose, our maqsad. Will get the favor of our father's attention. But story, you come to the end of the story. So they did hasad. What was the result of their envy? Fast forward, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saves Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him honor. Allah ta'ala makes him the ruler of Misr. Allah ta'ala opens the doors of Izzah, opens the doors of wealth. Allah ta'ala opens the door of that kingdom of Misr for Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. On the other hand, the brothers, there was a famine in Egypt, and the brothers are now coming to Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. They're begging. that please give us some wheat, some grain. وَتَصَدَّقْ عَلَيْنَا, give us some sadaqah. We are in grave distress and difficulty. And then said, Allah Ta'ala quotes those words, their words in Quran, that they are requesting, they're begging for food, and they're saying that we don't even have money to make payment to you. Just give us sadaqah as a token charity. They're standing before their brother empty handed as beggars and begging, pleading. And these were the people who were the sons of the Anbiya. They were the awlad of a Nabi. But look, there's such difficulty pleading like beggars, acting like beggars, asking for sadaqah in extreme distress. So this is the anjam, the consequence of hasad. That when a person follows this path of hasad, it brings a person down. Always a person, it comes to disgrace, it leads to disgrace. And then the ultimate example of hasad, you will find the most atam, the most ultimate, the most perfect example of hasad is manifested in the life of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the hasad of the Jews. They had hasad when the Prophet ﷺ came to this world. There were three kinds, three groups of people, three communities. You had the Jews, the Christians, and the Mushrikeen of Makkah Mukarramah. But out of these three, the Jews were Ahle Kitab. They were the people of the book. They had a nisbat with the ilm. You can think that they were the Maulvis of their day, Maulvis and Muftis of their day. Anyone, any ilmi question, they would go to the Jews. And because of that ilm, they had this takabbur, this arrogance inside of them. They used to say, Nahnu abna'ullah, that we are the sons of Allah, we are the beloveds of Allah. And then they were, in their books, they knew that there was the last messenger and prophet will come. And they were waiting in anticipation for that prophet. And that's why they weren't settled around in Makkah Mukarramah. They were in Medina Munawwara, in Yathrib, because they knew in their books it was mentioned that this is the place. This place has all those signs where the last messenger will come, will migrate to. So all of them, they settled in that place of Yathrib, old name Medina Munawwara. Banu Qurayza, Banu Nazir, all those tribes were there in Medina Munawwara. And even when the Jews they had a fight with the kuffar, with the unbelievers, they would invoke the name of the Prophet ﷺ, the last messenger, and use the Prophet ﷺ as a barakah that, oh Allah, give us fatah, give us victory over these unbelievers. And they knew that, and when the time came near for the wiladat, for the birth of the Prophet ﷺ, they were waiting in anticipation. But they realized that in Medina Munawwara, in Yathrib, there is no woman who's expecting. So they went to Makkah Mukarramah and found out that there is someone there who's expecting. And then they also, when they investigated, they realized that this is coming from a different tribe. And from that day, they started having envy for the Prophet ﷺ. Why did they have envy for the Prophet ﷺ? Because the Jews were from Banu Ishaq, the descendants of Ishaq alayhi salam, while the Prophet ﷺ was from Banu Ismail. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam had two sons, Sayyidina Ishaq alayhi salam and Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam. And the Jews, their shajara, their lineage went all the way back to Sayyidina Ishaq alayhi salam. And their expectation was that when the last messenger will come, he will belong from our khandan, our family, our lineage. And they were waiting for that. However, when the matter opened up for them and they realized that he has come from Banu Ismail, they became envious. That why this maqam, this ni'mat, why did they get this ni'mat? Why did they get this fazilat? We should have been the one who we are more deserving of this nisbat, this maqam, this ni'mat, this fazila. So this is the foundation of envy, that you view yourselves to be deserving of that ni'mat of Allah. Halaki, this is the taqsim, the distribution of Allah. Allah can distribute ni'mat, the blessings in whatever way He wants. But when a person is not razi with the taqsim, with the distribution of Allah, that why did this person get this ni'mah? This why? Why did this happen? Why did that person get this? Why did was this person given this blessing, this fazila? There is this fire inside. The name of that fire is called hasad. And since then, the Jews, they became envious of the Prophet ﷺ. And in their envy, they did so many things. They tried to assassinate the Prophet ﷺ. They tried to poison the Prophet ﷺ. They tried to do magic on the Prophet ﷺ. And so much magic that eventually Allah Ta'ala in Quran had to reveal this ayah that, oh my beloved messenger, my beloved Rasul, seek panah, seek refuge, وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا hasad. Seek refuge from those people who are doing hasad upon you when they do their hasad. So this is what happens. Envy. It's a disease. It's an ailment which people have because of many things. They envy other people because of their wealth. Sometimes they envy other because of their ilm. Sometimes hasad because of amal. Sometimes hasad because of children, job, different health. Whenever person has a ni'mat from Allah and this person feels bad in his heart, has this bekarari and becheni in his heart, he feels twists and turns in his stomach, then that's a sign that this person is sick. This is a sign of hasad. And this is such a deadly disease that it's a disease where the person himself is burning in his own fire. It affects the dunya, it affects the world of that own individual, the envier. Envier burns in the fire of his own envy. And this is such a disease which there is no medicine. If you have a pain in your head, you can get a medicine for that. You have a stomach cramp, you can get a medicine for that. If you have some arm cramp, different, and you can get a medicine for that. But this is something which keeps on burning inside, burning. And a person is just consumed by their own envy. The other person might be leading his life, he'll be pleased, happy, smiling. He is not bothered by the envy of this person. But the envier, he is burning. He is getting affected. He is spoiling his dunya. People become obsessed with other people. They're tracking what other people are doing, what other people are saying. And in this world, with all the social media that we have today, Allahu Akbar, just watching and tagging and liking and getting and looking at how many likes and other people have, it becomes an obsession. You lose your own life when you become so focused on the life of other people. You lose focus about your own life. You lose focus about your own purpose to life. And you become obsessed, infatuated, intoxicated about what's happening in other people's life and just tracking all the likes and dislikes that other people are getting. It affects a person's dunya. People succumb, become patients of depression. It hurts them emotionally. They can't stand this. They begin to lose out. They can't make friends with other people. No one wants to become friends with them. And it affects their environment, their mental state of being, their emotional well-being. It's that deadly. It's something, and there are sins which affect a person's akhirah. It spoils the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's punishment in akhirah. But this is something which affects a person's dunya, their own well-being in this dunya, in terms of their position in this dunya, in terms of their ruhaniyat and their emotional well-being in their dunya. And then also, this is such a deadly sin that there are many hadiths, but one hadith would be sufficient for all of us to understand how deadly, how lethal this sin, how crippling this disease is, that the Prophet ﷺ said that it's a disease which envy eats away good deeds like fire consumes dry wood. If you've ever seen fire consuming dry wood, you would realize that within a few moments, within a few minutes, there is nothing there. It's just ashes, and those ashes also disintegrate. It's just as if there was nothing there. And that's the example which the Prophet ﷺ is using to explain what happens. That envy eats away. It eats away a person's good deeds. It's such a toxic sin. Normally sins, when a person does any sin, they increase your bad deeds. They don't touch your good deeds. They remain intact. However, there are some diseases which can actually not only build and not only increase your bad side, but they can also reduce your good side. They can eat away your good side. They can eat away the good amal that you have done. Hasad is one of them. Shirk is another. Allah Ta'ala mentions about shirk also, that whoever does shirk, la yahbatanna amalak, his amal are also completely zaya, wasted away. Similarly, there is another thing, that that person who does be'adbi with the Prophet ﷺ, disrespectful in any way to the shan, to the adab of the Prophet ﷺ, then this is also such a toxic sin that this can also waste away a person's amal, good deeds. So three sins that are mentioned in the Quran that can waste away a person's good deeds. One is doing shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is Allah ta'ala's ghairah. This is the muhabbat of Allah ta'ala. Allah does not accept any partners in his muhabbat. Number two is doing be'adbi with the Prophet ﷺ. This is our relationship with the Mahabub of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is our love for the Mahabub of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want any sign of disrespect. And third is when a person has hasad towards their fellow believers. Because this is doing i'tiraz, this is complaining about the taqseem of Allah ta'ala. This is complaining to Allah, why? Why this person? Why not me? And this is also, that's why this is a very big sin which can waste away a person's good deeds. We should understand, however, that there is another word in Arabic language which is called, which is that you can, there is one thing which is called hasad. There's another thing where you compete with other people, tanafus, that you compete with other people in order to do more and more good deeds. And in Urdu we call this rashk. What this means is that someone else got a blessing from Allah Ta'ala, and you wish that, Ya Allah, just like you blessed that person with this ni'mah, Allah, if you can also bless me with the same ni'mah. You don't want that other person to be deprived of that ni'mah. You simply want that if you can also get that same ni'mah from Allah. This is permissible, this is called rashk, and this is completely fine in the deen of Islam. Hasad means that you question that why did that person get this ni'mah? And that's the main difference. Then mu'min, for a believer, they can look at other people, the blessings they have, other people have, and they can also make dua to Allah that, Allah, just like you gave ilm to that person, Allah, make me also amongst the ahl ilm. Just like you gave amal to that person, Allah, make me also amongst the ahl amal. Just like you gave good awlad, pious awlad to that individual, Allah, make my awlad also neek and salih and pious. This is fine. That you look at the ni'mat which Allah Ta'ala has given to other person, and you make dua to Allah Ta'ala that, Allah, He also gives you that same ni'mah. That khwaish, that desire is completely fine. A person should make that dua. But when a person starts thinking that why did that person get this ni'mah? Now that person is complaining to Allah Ta'ala. Complaining to Allah about His decree. That he is saying, in other words, that, Allah, you shouldn't have given this to the person. He's not deserving, I am more deserving. There is no mother who has ever given birth to any child who can do i'tiraz to Allah Ta'ala, who can complain to Allah Ta'ala, who can say such a statement to Allah Ta'ala, that, Allah, why? Why him or why her? Why not me? This is doing i'tiraz on the taqseem of Allah Ta'ala. And that's why it's a very big sin. That who are we? Who are we to be able to question the hikmat of Allah and the qudrat of Allah Ta'ala? Allah is Malikul Mulk. He is Fa'alul Lima Yurid. He can do whatever He wants, whatever He wishes. Kun fayakun. Allah Ta'ala is Malikul Mulk. How dare a person thinks about themselves that they have the audacity and the boldness to be able to make that question to Allah, to question the risk of Allah, to question the hikmah and the qudrat of Allah. So why then we have to understand that why does a person get this hasad? So there's some things which cause this hasad. The ulama mention that among the asbab of hasad, first is that a person is not pleased, he's displeased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's not pleased with the decree of Allah, with the division of Allah, with the worldly allotment of Allah. Then sometimes it happens a person has malice and hatred for someone. And when you have malice and hatred, ghussa for someone, they'll always have envy and jealousy for their enemy. Sometimes a person might have conceit and vanity, and that's a cause for their envy and jealousy. Sometimes it also happens that a person, there are two people and they're partners, or maybe two people who are in the same field. And when they're in the same field and one person gets a blessing from Allah Ta'ala, the other person notices this. The other person feels it. The other person gets jealous about that. This is called professional jealousy. This is called professional rivalry. Very difficult to be free of. Every person can, any line, any field, you can have this professional jealousy. You can have this in dunya, you can even have this in the deen. You can even have this in the ulama. You can even have this in the tulaba. In fact, our mashayikh, they say this, that لولا الحسد في العلماء لصاروا بمنزلة الأنبياء. That if only the ulama did not have hasad for one another, they would be at the maqam of the anbiya. Allahu Akbar. So it's basically hasad that destroys the ulama when the scholars have envy for one another. It's something which destroys the tulaba when they start having envy for one another. Envy against one another. The second thing we should look at is that what's the harm of hasad? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gets angry. That's the biggest harm, that Allah becomes angry with us. Allah becomes displeased with us. But at the more mundane level, we also become displeased with our own selves. It's this uncontrollable desire that you want to get that blessing that is beyond your reach. It weighs down our body, wears down our emotions, wears down our spirituality, wears down every aspect of our life. Person becomes lazy, person becomes patients of depression, person starts taking tablets. They lose the love of other people. People will no longer love such a person. People start looking down at that person who has envy and jealousy. These are all the harms of hasad. It's an illness that leads to many other illnesses. It's an evil which leads and opens up the door for many other evils. And people have this all the time. It's ajib, the muashra, the environment, the mahal that we live in. This is something which you find so widespread and prevalent. You see this at your workplace, you see this at your homes, you see this between students. They're just pulling the leg of one another. If somebody is doing some good work, but the other person starts pulling his leg down. Sometimes our Shaykh gives the example of a prawn or shrimps. There was a cook who wanted to cook some prawns and he had many dozens of them. And what he did was he took a big bucket and he put all the crabs in the bucket. Now all the crabs are swimming and there are dozens of them. And the person asks that, why didn't you cover that bucket? You should put a lid on the crab, on the bucket. And he says, don't worry, because when any crab tries to come out of the bucket, the others will pull him back down. He said, just look. And one of the crab was walking up the walls of the inner wall of the bucket, and as he got up, others started to claw him and pull him back down. Then the other one tried, then two more got together and pulled him down. So he said, there is no need for me to put a lid. They're not going anywhere. Just like that, enviers, they're like that, professional jealousy. Always cutting one another, cutting their legs, cutting their throats, cutting one another, cutting their efforts, cutting their success, negating their efforts and success. And when a person has this, they become deprived of the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. because that person is not happy with the mercy of Allah Ta'ala on other people. So then they themselves become deprived of the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. Allah says that why should I send my mercies upon you? I was sending these mercies upon other people, you should be happy. But on top of that, you start questioning my mercy on other people. If you're not happy with this mercy, then why should I send mercies, my mercies upon you? And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said that La tuhasidu, don't have hasad between yourselves. Don't envy, don't have envy and jealousy amongst yourselves. Now the last thing is that we should look at what is the cure of envy and jealousy, hasad. What are the ways in which we can remove this hasad from ourselves? First thing that Mashaykh mentioned is that we should seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from our own hasad. So you should make dua ta'awuz, that you can recite Surah Falak, Surah Nas for this. But when a person seeks refuge in Allah Ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one, Allah Ta'ala puts His help, Allah Ta'ala assists that person and removes this illness from that person's heart. Second is that a person should have some kind of sabr in their life. Sabr, patience and endurance. This is very important, because if someone tries to provide you any harm, someone tries to hurt you, your response should also be within the boundaries of the Sharia. And boundaries of the Sharia mean sabr and taqwa, patience and the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just like Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, when his brothers, they envied him and they did all what they wanted to do with him, his response was twofold: sabr, taqwa. And those two words are mentioned in the Quran, that whoever has sabr and whoever has taqwa, then Allah Ta'ala will not waste the amal of such a person. His efforts will not be blown away. Allah will honor that person, and look at how Allah Ta'ala honored Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. This is an usul, that one group who are doing hasad over you, but then the question is that how do you respond? If your response, no matter what other people are doing with you, if your response is sabr, if your response is taqwa, patience, endurance and fear of Allah Ta'ala, then no matter how difficult, how distressful that situation is, no matter what the planning and plotting other people are doing with you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, eventually you will get izzat. Allah will give you izzat, Allah will give you shahi, Allah Ta'ala will give you a noble rank, Allah Ta'ala will give you success. And we have the story of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam in front of us, that shows that without any baradri, without any worldly means, he was a convict prisoner behind bar. He was sold as a slave, disconnected from his family, no wealth, nothing with him, no worldly asbab. And yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him that honor, that rank, that izzat, that status, that wealth, made him the ruler of Misr. Makeenun Amin. So this is an usul, and this you look at all the lives of the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, that when their ummah did hasad towards them, when the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, their response was sabr and taqwa. And whoever responds with sabr and taqwa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives najat. People had hasad with Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, but eventually what happened? Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, person of sabr and taqwa, he became Naji'ullah. The ummah of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam had hasad towards him, but Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam practiced his sabr taqwa, he became Kalimullah. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam became Khalilullah. And then the greatest of hasad that the Jews and the people at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they had hasad towards the Prophet ﷺ. And this is true. When a person has more kamal, the more kamal a person has, the more ba kamal and the more perfect a person is, more hasadin that person will have. The greater the number of hasadin. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ in the history of humanity had the greatest number of hasadin. Why? Because he had the greatest maqam of perfection. But the Prophet ﷺ, then the madad of Allah Ta'ala was also there. The assistance, the help of Allah Ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ became Mahabubullah, Habibullah. So sabr, taqwa. Along with this, there is also some other cure which are more practical, more mental in nature. What we have to do is that you have to think that these are internal sins. Many times we don't feel the enormity of our internal sins, we have to flush them out. We have to remove the gift wrapping, this gift wrapping of shaitan. We use light words for this, that it's not that person hurt me, or I'm upset, or I'm disturbed, or I'm in a bad mood. These are all sorts of light words that we use for our sins. First step is to be honest and to expose the nakedness, the ugliness of that sin. Come face to face with that sin, the reality of that sin. So how should we look at this? That I'm not just envious, it's not just envy that a person got X. What I'm actually saying is that, Ya Allah, I'm upset with you. Because, Ya Allah, you are the being who gave this blessing to that person. Allah Ta'ala is the being who gives out the deen. Allah Ta'ala is the being who gives out dunya. So if you're upset that a person is making progress in their deen, or you're upset that a person is making progress in their dunya, then it actually means the way you should look at this is that we are upset at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That Allah Ta'ala, how dare you allow this person to progress in deen? Allahu Akbar Kabira, Al-Aman al-Hafiz. Who can have even a drop of such attitude that you can challenge the wishes of Allah, the desires of Allah, the way that Allah Ta'ala has decreed, the hikmah and the qudrat of Allah? And that's why we should never have this feeling towards anyone. Because when you realize that this is the hakikat of hasad, we will have nafrat, hatred towards our own hasad. And that's the problem. We don't look down on our hasad. We don't frown upon our hasad. Why? Because we don't view our hasad negatively. And that's why we're able to keep it. We're able to live with it. We're able to happily bear that hasad. Living this two-faced, dualistic, hypocritical life. Not worried about removing the hasad. Not trying to remove the hasad from our hearts. So we have to look at this. This is simply not just hasad towards this person. This is malcontent with Allah. This is discontent with Allah. This is feeling outraged at Allah Ta'ala. And that is something that when a person feels, it's going to jolt a person, shock a person. And that's the first cure. Second cure is that you can think and you can imagine that Allah Ta'ala is gazing at our heart. And He's gazing at our heart at that moment. So the second we gaze upon someone else, whether a gaze of anger or a gaze of envy, we should think that I am looking at this person and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at my heart at this very moment. And that should be enough to make that person scared. That itself is enough to make a person humbled. That how can I let Allah Ta'ala gaze upon this fire, this blazing fire of hasad in my heart? What should I be hoping? I should be hoping from Allah Ta'ala to fill my heart with the coolness and softness and calmness of His remembrance and His love in my heart. So on the surface, I'm making dua with my tongue that Allah increase me in my love for you, increase me in my remembrance of you, increase me in these things that calm me, increase me in the sweetness of Iman, this coolness of Iman, this itminan. And in reality, at this very moment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is catching me as a munafiq, that I'm being hypocritical. I'm untrue to my du'as, untrue to my words. I myself am eliminating that calmness. I myself am bringing in that storm of hasad, anger in my heart. So we should just imagine that hasad is completely naked before Allah. Allah is looking at my heart, and this is very powerful and very effective to try to feel that Allah is looking at my heart. Allah is seeing my heart. Allah is looking at my batin. He is looking at the feelings in my heart. He sees our true intentions. Allah is not fooled by the justifications that our nafs might try to offer. Then this hasad, a more practical solution, it's a disease of the nafs. And what you have to understand is that for these diseases of the nafs, the way to treat them is to do mukhalifat of the nafs, which simply means that whatever the nafs says to do, you do the exact opposite. The exact opposite. So when you wish to criticize someone, you want to say, why did you do this? Or you want to say that to this person, this, that, or the other. Your nafs wants to criticize. Your response should be praise that other person. This is very hard. But the cure for hasad is going to be very hard. Because you are fighting not just your hasad, you are going against your nafs. And your nafs is strong, really strong. Nafs is very, very thick. And when you try to break your nafs, then you will realize how strong your nafs is. So this is going against your lower self. So praise when you wish to criticize. And when you wish that the blessings and ni'mat should be reduced, you should go give them gifts. Gifts make a lot of difference. The whole Western commercialization, consumerism, gifts, Valentine's Day, Christmas, gift giving. ये हमारा भी दीन है. This is also our deen. Tahadu, tahabu. Someone says that should we give gifts on the occasions of weddings or anniversaries, etc. only? We say you should give gifts anytime and every time, all the time. Why? Because tahadu. The Prophet said that exchange gifts with one another, tahabu, you will increase in your love for one another. This is something in our deen also. That when you have a bad feeling towards someone, towards anyone, a very, very practical solution, give a gift. This increases love. And when love increases, the nafrat, that hatred itself will fade away, will go away in the background. So one should make it a habit that when we have a bad feeling towards anyone, it doesn't have to be a big gift. It could be a small gift, small thing, something to eat. You just want, when you wish to act arrogantly, try to act nicely with that person. Try to be sweet with that person. Try to treat them with humility. Let them go first. Let them sit first. Make space for them when they come. Stand up to greet them when they come. You feel envy towards someone, feel hasad towards someone, stand up to greet them. Go against your nafs. You see them far away. You think that I won't say salam to her. If she comes your way, then say salam. In fact, you walk over to her and you say assalamu alaikum. How are you doing? That's the way to get rid of this hasad. Another thing which is very hard to do because this is private and personal is to make dua for that person. And this is the best ilaj also. This will not be sincere in the beginning. You will want to speak, but your tongue will be shut, locked, won't obey you. But you will have to force your tongue to utter those words of dua for the other person. You'll have to make dua that Allah Ta'ala gives her success in this world. Allah Ta'ala gives him more in the future. Your heart will be pushing you. Your nafs will be screaming against you. But you have to say it. You will feel as if you're burdened by your nafs, but still. If you can make these du'as for even a few days, 2 or 3 days, if you can make this dua, hasad will be completely removed from your heart. As if it never existed. It's a very, very practical solution, but a very, very effective solution. Just make dua for that person for 3 days and see how those negative feelings of hasad will go away. And in fact, if nothing else, think about the benefit in making dua. The Prophet ﷺ said that when a person makes dua in a hadith, then the angels say laka ameen, wa laka ameen. So the angels say ameen to your dua, that you make dua for this person, and this person gets this dua, our alfaz, and he gets the ameen of the angels. Then the angels also make dua for you, wa laka. It means that for you too. In other words, whatever dua you make for the other person, the angels are making the exact same dua for you. And then after making that dua for you, they say, Walaka Ameen. So then they say Ameen to their own du'as. So think about this, that if you make dua for someone else, you will still come out ahead. Because the dua that you made for that person, the alfaz, the lisan, the zaban of the dua was yours, and the angel said Ameen. But then the angels, what you get in return is that the angels make dua for you by saying walaka. So it's the lisan of the dua itself is the angels, plus the Ameen is also of the angels. So this is an incredible mercy of Allah Ta'ala, that you can turn. Yes. And one more thing is that you can actually turn hasad into something which is very positive. That when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses someone with a ni'mah, think that Allah Ta'ala can also bless me with that same ni'mah. Actually, it's a golden opportunity for you to make your own dua to Allah Ta'ala. Instead of being envious that why him or why her and wishing that it's taken away from that person, that's a moment that where you turn to Allah and ask for that same desire, same blessing from Allah with these words that, Ya Allah, just like the way you give this blessing to that person, Ya Allah, please give me that same blessing also. It requires some kind of trust on Allah Ta'ala that He is the real giver, He is the only giver. And whatever other people are getting, they received it from Allah Ta'ala. So if everything they're getting is coming from Allah, why not direct my attention to the source of those blessings, to the one who can give those blessings? And if a person really in earnest they turn towards Allah, then Allah can give us also that same thing. It's no big deal for Allah Ta'ala. It won't reduce His treasures. And this is the secret, that you make dua according to the situation. Your dua is going to be accepted very quickly. You can do mushahida of this with your own open eyes. That any time you feel that you're stuck in such a situation where someone gets X, turn to Allah Ta'ala and make dua to Allah Ta'ala truly from the depth of your heart with ikhlas and with earnest. That Allah, you are the true giver. You are the only giver. Ya Allah, I ask you to also bless me with that same blessing. And the proof for this is in Quran Azim wa Shan, when Sayyidina Maryam alayhi salatu was salam, she was given these fruits that were out of season. And then Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salam, who was a Nabi, he happened to enter upon that moment and he saw that she is getting these fruits which are out of season. I am a Nabi, but she is not even a Nabi. And she's getting this special favor and blessing from Allah Ta'ala. Instead of envying her, instead of having hasad, instead of being jealous about these blessings that she is enjoying, he used that opportunity to make his own dua to Allah Ta'ala. That, Ya Allah, just like you gave her fruits out of season, oh Allah, give me awlad in this old age. And Quran testifies that the dua was accepted so quickly that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala there and then gave glad tidings to Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salam that we will bless you with Sayyidina Yahya alayhi salam, who will be a Nabi. Allahu Akbar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's special mercy is showering down on this individual at that time. What we have to do is to tap into that opportunity and ask Allah Ta'ala to channel that same special mercy on us also. And the last thing we'll mention is our Mashaykh, they mention that we have to do more and more dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the qalbi ilaj. This is the real deep ilaj, deep cure for this disease. And this is the cure that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in a hadith, that for each and everything there is a polish. The polish of the spiritual hearts is the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All we have to do is to apply this polish on our hearts, and then our heart will become clean. That polish of the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hasad can only take place in that human being who is fixated on makhluk, who is obsessed with makhluk. It's only when you're noticing other people that they have some ni'mah, some kabiliya, some kubuliya that they have and you don't have. It's only when you're obsessed with noticing others that you see other people and what the blessings they have. But the power of the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that it disconnects the person from ghayrullah, disconnects the person from masiva Allah, disconnects the person completely. So that person who's disconnected, how can he have hasad? How can that person have hasad who is thinking about Allah Ta'ala all the time? He's not even concerned with what other people have, what ni'mat they have, what kabiliya and kubuliya they have. And that's why he can't even feel hasad over it, because you are with Allah. You are fana, mahav, istighraq. They're completely lost in the remembrance of Allah Ta'ala. And that's why they don't have hasad. So that's the only way then to deeply purify ourselves from hasad. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said that the polish of the heart that is going to take off these sins of the heart is going to be the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why on Mashaykh they prescribe these lessons in muraqabat. That when a person does this muraqabah, then, and especially for those who are students of zikr, they would, this lesson number 4, which is latifa khafi. When a person does muraqabah on this lesson number 4, then they get this so much fikr in their heart that they're just thinking and concerned about their own selves and about their own state of heart, that they begin to, they don't have fikr about other people. They are worried about their own self and about curing their own disease. How much zikr? That's also mentioned in the Quran. So one thing is that you know the medicine, then second is to know the quantity. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu dhkurullaha dhikran kathira. Kathir. Remember Allah Ta'ala with abundance. There's no other way. If a person doesn't have kasrat zikr, he will not be able to remove hasad deep inside of yourself. Because Quran is saying that the guarantee is that you have to bring dhikr kasir. Kasrat zikr, then you can remove hasad. So we have to bring this remembrance to Allah Ta'ala. This journey from dhikr kasir. This journey from hasad kasir to zikr kasir. That is called tazkiyah. It's nothing more than this, nothing less than this. And we mentioned this last time also. This is the real difference between us and the people who are pious. Like I said at the beginning, this is a very topic of disease of the heart and ailments and illnesses. It's a very badzak and badzaika topic. People don't like to speak about such topics. But this is the real difference between us and those who are pious and beloved to Allah. It's not about the good deeds that we are doing. It's the same. They also pray, we also pray. They fast, we also fast in this month of Ramadan. They pray Tarawih, we also pray Tarawih. They recite Quran, we are also reciting Quran. They make du'as, we are also making du'as. They're doing the extras, we're also doing the extras. But what's the difference? Where's the obstacle? The real difference is that they are the ones who have purified their heart of these sins, and we haven't been able to purify our hearts from this anger, from this jealousy, from this envy, from this hasad. And that individual in this month of Ramadan, if we can if a person only prays their faraiz, wajibat and sunan, and they're not performing these long extra nawafil, not doing any extra long mujahidat, but just sticking with the faraiz, wajibat, and however they're purifying their heart of these sins, they're making sure that their heart doesn't have anger, jealousy, envy, then wallah, tallah, billah, that person has earned Ramadan. That person has excelled in Ramadan. That person has aced Ramadan. And on the other hand, that person who was doing long nawafil, long du'as, long tilawat, lots of sadaqat and khairat, but that person is not purifying his heart. That person has these diseases, hasad and kibr and ghussa and anger in his heart. Then again, wallah, tallah, billah, this person he blew his Ramadan. He wasted his Ramadan. He failed in Ramadan. This is the real message of Ramadan. That a person uses this opportunity. They use this opportunity as a way to purify themselves, to get taqwa. This is why Ramadan is here. It's a month to dream big about this aspect. And really, if a person can get this, they got Ramadan. They aced Ramadan. So in this month, then we make dua to Allah Ta'ala. We should make dua to Allah Ta'ala that Allah enable us to truly and completely purify our hearts of these ailments, these diseases, these sins once and for all. And Allah make this month a month that you purify us and you change our attitude, you change our heart, and Allah accept us for a life of taqwa, for a life of tazkiyah, for a life that we can earn your rada. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase more barakah in this Ramadan for all of us. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teach us the proper way to earn this barakah and to come close to Him. Ameen. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. سبحان ربي الوهاب اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين اللهم آت نفسي تقواها اللهم آت نفسي تقواها اللهم آت نفسي تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah. Allah, we come to you tonight with these broken hearts, with these impure hearts. Allah, we ask you to purify our hearts. Ya Rabbi Kareem, purify the sins of our hearts. Purify our hearts of all the darkness, of all the blackness, of all the hardness. Ya Rabbi Kareem, remove the sin of anger from our hearts. Remove unlawful anger, remove lust, remove jealousy and envy. Allah, remove all feelings of malice and hatred, all feelings of takabbur and arrogance from our hearts. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah. Allah, you are the true Muzakki Hakiki, you are the true purifier of our hearts. Ya Rabbi Kareem, we ask you to purify our hearts out of your rahmah. Allah, this is a month of barakah, these are the nights of barakah, these are the days of days of barakah. Ya Rabbi Kareem, each and every single night of this month of Ramadan, Allah used to extricate so many people from Jahannam. You give khalasi and bury so many people from Jahannam. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, we ask you to, Ya Allah, include our names amongst those people who have been forgiven in this month of Ramadan. Ya Rabbi Kareem, grant us your maghfirah in this month. Allah, grant us the barakah in this month. Grant us hidayah in this month. And Ya Rabbi Kareem, out of the barakah and hidayah and rahmah in this month, Allah, we ask you to grant us taqwa in this month. Allah, grant us taqwa in our hearts. Grant us tazkiyah in our qulubs. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, we haven't been able to make so much effort in this month. Ya Rabbi Kareem, we have so many sins that we bring to you in this month of Ramadan. We are burdened by our sins. But Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, this is a month of asking. Allah, this is a month of dua. Allah, this is a month that we present our weaknesses to you. This is a month that we present ourselves before you. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, we are asking you. And we're looking at your rahmah. Ya Rabbi Kareem, we ask you to, out of your rahmah, Ya Allah, that you remove all these sins. Remove this burden from our back. And Ya Rabbi Kareem, purify our hearts. Ya Rabbi Kareem, remove the filth of our sins. Remove the ghafla from our hearts. Remove, Ya Allah, all the unlawful feelings that are from our hearts. Ya Rabbi Kareem, whatever sins that we have done, Allah, whatever sins that we did ilman iradatan, we make tawbah of those sins. Allah, we seek forgiveness from you for those sins. And Ya Allah, whatever sins that we did accidentally, Ya Allah, we ask you to forgive those sins also. Ya Rabbi Kareem, forgive us for all the sins that we remember. Forgive us for all the sins that we have forgotten. Forgive us for all the sins that we did in gatherings. Forgive us, Ya Allah, for all the sins that we did in private and solitude. Ya Rabbi Kareem, forgive us for the sins of our eyes, the sins of our ears, the sins of our limbs, the sins of our tongue, the sins of our heart, the sins of our hearts. Ya Rabbi Kareem, grant us qalb salim, a qalb munib. Grant us, Ya Allah, nafs mutma'inna. Allah, save us from the deception of our nafs. Save us, Ya Allah, from the delusions of our nafs and shaitan. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah. Allah, grant us aql salim. Ya Rabbi Kareem, accept this tawbah from all of us tonight. Allah, make us true in our tawbah. Make us sincere in our tawbah. Allah, we make this irada to you tonight to leave sins of our heart. Allah, we pledge ourselves to you. Allah, we make this commitment to you. We make this pact with you. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, we ask you, grant Kubuliya to our niyat, Ya Allah. Allah, we are presenting ourselves to you. We are presenting our niyat and intentions to you. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, ask you to grant us istiqamah in our niyat, istiqamat in our irada, istiqamat in our himma, istiqamat in our efforts. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, remove our names from amongst the sinners. Allah, include our names amongst those people whom you have forgiven. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, enable us to lead a life of taqwa. Enable us to lead a life of sunnah. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, instead of all these blameworthy attributes, Allah, we ask you to adorn us with all the praiseworthy attributes. Allah, change all these sayyi'at into hasanat. Allah, change all these illnesses into praiseworthy akhlaq. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, grant us hilm. Allah, make us people of forbearance. Make us people of forgiveness. Make us people of pure character, noble character, pure hearts, beautiful hearts, pristine hearts, hearts that are free of the effects and taints of sins, Ya Allah. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah. Allah, cast a glance of muhabba on our hearts. Ya Rabbi Kareem, fill these hearts with your love. Ya Rabbi Kareem, we know that you will not place your love in impure hearts. Allah, we know that our hearts are impure, and until and unless these hearts are purified, Allah, you will not place your love inside these hearts. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, we ask you, Allah, we beg you to purify our hearts, only so that, Ya Allah, you can place your muhabba in these hearts, only so that, Ya Allah, you can place your love inside this heart. Ya Allah, we also want to experience that love in our hearts. We also want to experience that closeness and nearness with you in our hearts. We also want to experience that intimacy in our hearts for you. Allah, we also want to draw close to you and feel that closeness to you. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, you are Muqallibul Qulub. You are the changer for our hearts. Ya Allah, change our dead hearts. Allah, you are the one who controls our hearts. Allah, the Prophet ﷺ said that our hearts are between your fingers. Yuqallibuha kayfa yasha. You can change our hearts wherever you wish. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, cast a special glance of rahmah on our hearts tonight and fill this heart with your love, Ya Allah. Enable us to love you with the full extent of our hearts. Ahibbu bikulli qulubikum. Allah, we want to be able to love you for the full extent of our hearts, with the full depth of our hearts. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, increase us in our muhabba for you. Increase us in our love for you. Allah, make our love for you more than the love for anything else in this world, more than the love for our parents, more than the love for our spouse, more than the love for our children, more than the love for our own nafs. Allah, more than the love for this dunya and the wealth of this dunya. Ya Rabbi Kareem, increase us in ta'alluq with you. Allah, ignite that flame of love in our hearts. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, you have said that our hearts are your house. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, we want to feel that jalwa in our hearts. Allah, we want to feel that jalwa of you inside our hearts. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, grant us the tajalliyat and anwarat in our hearts. Revive our dead hearts, Ya Allah. Enable us to feel the sweetness of Iman in our hearts, the sweetness in our ibadah, the sweetness in our dua. Ya Rabbi Kareem, enable us to feel your closeness, your ma'iyah, and your akrabiyah, and your muhabba and mahbubiyah. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, grant us that station of ihsan, that station that we can worship you in such a state as if we see you, كأنك ترى, or as if you're looking at us, Ya Allah. Ya Rabbi Kareem, accept us, Ya Allah, for that maqam of ihsan. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, accept all of these du'as, Ya Allah. Allah, we ask you, Ya Allah, to grant us from your own shan. Allah, grant us, Ya Allah, according to your own maqam. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, make the days to come better than the days that have passed by. Make the life to come better than the life that has passed by. Allah, make the life to come a kafara for the life that has passed by. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, in this month of Ramadan, in these nights of Ramadan, Allah, we ask you from you, Ya Allah. Allah, we want to be able to develop a relationship with you, strengthen our taluk with you. Allah, remove all the unlawful loves from our heart, remove all the unlawful desires from our heart. Allah, remove all the unlawful feelings and emotions from our heart. Allah, remove all the impurities from our heart, remove all the illnesses from our heart. Allah, remove all those obstacles on the way. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, enable us, Ya Allah, grant us tawfiq to be able to connect to you, to be able to come close to you. Allah, draw us close to you, make us amongst the muqarrabun. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, pull us close towards yourself. Allah, we haven't been able to come close to you. Allah, we try but we fail. Allah, we take one step forward, but our nafs throws us three steps back. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, Allah, we are slipping away. Allah, the month of Ramadan is passing by. Allah, we are wasting our time even in this month of Ramadan. We still haven't been able to purify our hearts. We still haven't been able to remove these illnesses. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, we come to you in a state of desperation. Allah, we come to you in a state of urgency and need. Allah, we come to you in a state of faqr and ihtiyaj. Ya Rabbi Kareem, you have said in Quran, Antumul Fuqara. Allah, we come to you in that state of fakir, and Allah, we ask you, Allah, you that you pull us close towards yourself. Allah, we ask you that you do jazab of ourselves, that you pull us, that you attract us, Ya Allah. Ya Rabbi Kareem, you bring us close towards yourself. Ya Rabbi Kareem, out of your barakah of this month, the barakah of the nights of this month, the barakah of this ibadah, Allah, we ask you, Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, to pull us close towards yourself. Allah, accept all the neek ibadat that we're doing in this month. Allah, accept our fasting in this month. Accept the taraweeh in this month, the tilawat of Quran, our nafil ibadah, our zikr that we are making. Ya Rabbi Kareem, and Ya Allah, in return of all these ibadah, Allah, we ask you, Ya Allah, to grant us your taluk, to grant us taqwa in our qulub. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, make us strong, Ya Allah, in our taqwa. Ya Rabbi Kareem, Ya Allah, accept all of these du'as from us. Ya Rabbi Kareem, whatever pious intentions and du'as that we have in our hearts, Ya Rabbi Kareem, we ask you to grant us, Ya Allah, those du'as also. And whatever du'as that we should have made to you, but we weren't able to make, Allah, we ask you to grant us all that khair also, and save us from all the shurur, from all the fitan and fasad. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على حبيبه خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.